Picture a small wooden home on a sugar plantation. Tin roof, open porch, maybe 2 rooms, 700 to 900 square feet. Inside, a family of 5 gathers after long days in the fields. The sound of laughter blends with the rustling of palm leaves and the rhythm of a simpler time. Now, imagine that same piece of land replaced by a towering glass condominium. Infinity pool, ocean view, marble interiors. Price tag, $2 million. It's still Hawaii, but a Hawaii very few can afford to call home. This is not just an economic story. It's a cultural and emotional transformation. From the humble plantation cottages that defined Hawaii's early communities to today's luxury skyline, this island paradise has undergone a profound shift in who belongs and who gets left behind. For decades, paradise promised opportunity. Today, it promises exclusivity. And as housing prices skyrocket and local families move away, one question lingers. What happened to the Hawaii that felt like home? This is the untold story of Hawaii's housing crisis, from plantation homes to luxury condos, and what it says about the soul of the islands.
In the early 20th century, Hawaii's landscape was dominated by sugar and pineapple plantations. Tens of thousands of workers from Japan, the Philippines, Portugal, and beyond lived in modest plantation camps provided by the companies. These weren't just houses, they were entire communities. The homes were simple, one-story wooden structures with tin roofs, open windows, and basic plumbing. Most were under 1,000 square feet. They lacked luxury, but they offered something priceless: stability and community. Families often grew their own food, shared tools, and celebrated cultural festivals together. The neighborhood was the support system. In those tight-knit camps, people didn't measure wealth in square footage, they measured it in relationships. As long as the plantations thrived, so did this lifestyle. The system had its flaws. Wages were low and mobility was limited, but it allowed working families to survive in one of the most isolated places on Earth. By mid-century, however, the plantation economy began to collapse. Automation, globalization, and cheap foreign labor drove sugar and pineapple operations overseas. Thousands lost their jobs. The plantation houses that once symbolized community began to symbolize decline. At the same time, Hawaii's statehood in 1959 opened the floodgates for tourism and outside investment. What had once been agricultural land was suddenly worth millions. The quiet plantation villages began to disappear, replaced by the glimmer of hotels, resorts, and real estate speculation. Within a generation, the island's housing identity had changed forever, from modest necessity to global luxury. The 1960s and 70s brought transformation. Tourism exploded. Developers saw opportunity in every coastline, every view, every undeveloped acre. The local economy shifted from agriculture to hospitality, and with that came a new kind of housing. High-rises began to dominate Honolulu's skyline. The same areas where plantation homes once stood, modest and communal, became zones for luxury developments. Land once seen as humble became a playground for investment portfolios. Foreign and mainland buyers poured into the market. Properties were no longer just homes, they became assets, commodities to buy, hold, and trade. Hawaii's housing turned into a symbol of status rather than stability. Government zoning and tax policies followed the money. While permits for luxury condominiums in places like Kaka'ako and Waikiki were fast-tracked, affordable housing projects were often delayed, blocked by bureaucracy, or opposed by existing homeowners. The very policies meant to manage land fairly often had the opposite effect. concentrating ownership in fewer hands while driving prices far beyond local reach. This shift wasn't just economic, it was cultural. The spirit of ohana, family, and shared community began to fade in the shadow of towering condos and absentee investors. What was once our home became their investment. By the 1990s, the transformation was nearly complete. The plantation cottage had become an artifact of nostalgia, a piece of the past, romanticized but rarely preserved.
Fast forward to today, the numbers paint a stark picture. As of 2025, the median single-family home price on Oahu hovers around $1.15 million, while the median condo price sits near $500,000 to $600,000. Even for middle-class families, home ownership is slipping away. Luxury real estate, however, is thriving. In Maui's Wailea district, the median condo price has reached $945,000, with ocean view units often selling for over $1.5 million. The same is true in Oahu's Kaka'ako district, where glass towers promise urban paradise but deliver exclusivity. Developers are building more, not less, but they're building for a different audience. Foreign investors, wealthy retirees, and remote professionals dominate sales, while the local workforce faces rising rents and shrinking availability. The result? 2 Hawaiis. One, a glittering symbol of global affluence. The other, a quiet struggle for survival among locals priced out of their own neighborhoods. Even condos, once considered entry-level, are now luxury by mainland standards. Maintenance fees, insurance, and property taxes push monthly costs well beyond what an average teacher, nurse, or firefighter can afford. The cultural divide deepens. In communities like Kalihi or Waianae, families crowd into multi-generational homes, sometimes 3 or 4 families under one roof. Meanwhile, luxury units in Honolulu sit empty half the year, owned by investors who rarely set foot on the island. Hawaii's housing market is no longer about shelter. It's about speculation, and the social consequences are becoming impossible to ignore. Restoring or maintaining old plantation homes is expensive. Most don't meet modern building codes. Upgrading wiring, plumbing, and roofing can cost more than rebuilding from scratch. For many families, that's not an option. Meanwhile, buildable land is scarce. Geography limits supply. Mountains, volcanic terrain, and protected conservation zones leave little room for expansion. What land remains is often snapped up by developers who can outbid locals with ease. Zoning laws have also become a barrier. Large portions of land are restricted to single-family use, blocking denser, more affordable housing types. Ironically, high-rise luxury condos face fewer legal obstacles than duplexes or small local apartment buildings. Infrastructure adds another layer of cost. Water, roads, sewer, and energy systems need constant upgrades. Yet funding often prioritizes tourist zones instead of rural or working-class areas. Add to this Hawaii's sky-high cost of living. Everything from lumber to labor must be imported. Even government-built affordable housing often ends up selling for $400,000 to $600,000, far from truly affordable for most families. All of this is compounded by gentrification. Longtime residents are pushed out as property taxes rise. Some sell under pressure. Others move to the mainland, contributing to Hawaii's ongoing population decline. Over 10,000 residents per year leaving in search of cheaper lives. The result is a paradox. One of the world's most beautiful places, but one of the hardest to live in.
There are glimmers of hope. Communities and lawmakers are beginning to revisit Hawaii's past, not as nostalgia, but as a blueprint for balance. Some local architects and nonprofits are reviving plantation-style housing. Small, efficient homes built with modern materials but traditional designs aimed at affordability and cultural continuity. Projects like Kunia Village on Oahu combine historical preservation with new affordable housing models, proving that it's possible to honor the past while building for the future. State legislation under discussion in 2025 proposes flexible zoning reforms, allowing for multifamily units on single-family lots, a step toward restoring density and affordability. There's also growing pressure to regulate short-term rentals, convert unused luxury properties into local housing, and provide tax credits for preserving historical homes. These aren't magic bullets, but they're movement in the right direction. If Hawaii can strike a balance between tourism, investment, and local well-being, it might rediscover what made it special in the first place: community, connection, and the spirit of aloha. But time is running out. Every year, more plantation homes vanish, more locals leave, and more investors arrive. The islands are at a crossroads. One path leads to preservation, the other to permanent loss.
The story of Hawaii's housing is the story of change, from sweat and soil to steel and glass. What began as modest plantation homes has become a landscape of luxury and inequality. This transformation brought wealth, but also heartbreak. For every millionaire condo owner, there's a family forced to leave their island. For every gleaming high-rise, there's a memory buried beneath it of community, simplicity, belonging. Yet the spirit of the islands isn't gone. It lives in those who fight to preserve the past, who believe that progress doesn't have to mean displacement, and who still call Hawaii home, even when it feels like paradise has a price tag. If Hawaii's future is to be more than a postcard, it must remember its roots, because a paradise without its people isn't paradise at all.